Welcome back to Soma Spider. So what? Anime review episode number 6. If you're curious about my finger, somehow I cut myself on the little scratch there. Okay, this episode I'm covering episodes 16 and 19. By far probably the shortest batch of episodes I've covered for this anime in one video, like when I cover like one book of the series. Probably not since book 1. Now, in these particular episodes, like usual, we have 2 stories going on here. I'm going to talk about the human one first because this one doesn't get a lot of progression, this one. A little more progression with the spider one than it is with, of course, well, the human one. Basically, with this one, they decided they had to go, because I forgot to mention this in my last video, is that during the last couple minutes of episode 15, they kind of set this up where they have to go, where Shun and his group have to go through the very same labyrinth that the spider basically went through throughout the early episodes. How they go through there. And the thing is, they actually don't go to any areas we've seen before, which is quite interesting. And the way they display in the anime, it's like, wow, we're here for like one episode. They do in fact do one reference in here to another one, where they basically first they go and they try to get they get to the labyrinth, but they can't go to the regular entrance because it's blocked by Imperial soldiers. So go to a side entrance. Well, they have to go swimming. Also, it's something quite interesting though. Faye, who by the way is a dragon, can go to human form. And here's the thing. Her human form is basically her pre-reincarnation look. Yeah, she's able to maintain that. And she basically is telepathically contacting Shun about this. So Shun basically, she asks Shun, can you send Miss Okada and Kenta? Like, okay. And they put her in an outfit, and of course they're quite surprised the fact she can turn into a girl now. So later on they decided to have all the characters put on swimsuits. Which, yeah, they're cute. They even have it where Faye basically wears like almost like a strapless top for hers. Yeah, really interesting idea this one is. So you kind of think of it sort of like a beach episode, but really, it just depends on some suits that can go through an underwater entrance, which, okay, quite interesting to say the least. And of course, you have Shun protecting Faye the whole time. At one point, he basically, when he finally gets inside the thing, he actually gets on top of Faye. And if you're curious, though, no, he doesn't do anything to her at all. He does get off of her, and then they put on their clothes, which apparently the other guy, who apparently was the father of the guy who declined to guide to the labyrinth, and get to the labyrinth. The only place they actually do have a reference to a previous episode here, they go through the labyrinth, they go through the shores, but they do pass by the very area, I think it was back in episode, I think it was 13, I think it was, where the nameless spider's mother made that big hole in the ceiling just to get out of the labyrinth. And they just pass by it, but they can't exactly go up there because there's a bunch of wasps up there. Yep, so they march on through. They do stop at being there for 5 hours because there's no sunlight direct in this place, apparently if you move around too much, you kind of suffer through labyrinth sickness. I'm like, interesting. And they can't go through this particular area because that's where Nabra made her home, her former home. So they manage to get through this, not much of a problem. They manage to get out, and then of course they separate from their guide. The guide goes back to the other side, and they go on to the elf village. And, of course, they had to go through a teleportation circle because apparently there's a barrier, which apparently is well known. So, managed to get in, but the elves are not trustworthy, except for their leader. Except this guy's supposed to be dead because Sophia beheaded him. And he's like, oh, death won't stop me. How the heck is this guy freaking alive? Did he basically clone himself or something? Yeah, they don't say what the heck is going on here. So, he's one that allows them to come through. And by the way, their teacher is actually his daughter. Yep. So they go in, and of course, they mention that she's not very trustworthy, which is like, she's their teacher. No, they don't get much of it. And they manage to go to the sort of like the farm that all the reincarnations basically are there. And here's the thing. Miss Okada managed to find all the reincarnations except for 4. And she did say there was actually 13 here. But she left with the fact there's actually 15 here, and they made it with all of them. And they're all shocked the fact that Kenta, who actually used to be a guy in the previous incarnation, is now a smoking hot woman. and they chat for a bit. And apparently the elves are not trustworthy for some reason. Not really sure why. Excuse me. They don't really go into it at all, and apparently the church's not trustworthy them either for some reason. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's what the whole sentiment is. They didn't really go into here at all. And then they leave it off there. Of course, Miss Okada goes off to do something else, and that's the human stuff. You could say a lot of this just walking around somewhat. Yes, definitely. Oh, good. Sarah Wife is basically went on Twitch right now, which is awesome. So, in the case of the human stuff, that's it. That's all they do. You just basically look at a little bit story progression. Not much action per se. If there's any action, it's very little at best. Yes. Of course, they do acknowledge Hugo. The elves do acknowledge that Hugo is the false hero. Yes, they do acknowledge that. Because they do believe that the church is controlled by him to make him the actual hero, even though that Shun is the hero. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. You can mostly say that the whole human stuff, this one, it's mostly set for something later. There's not a lot of progression here, per se. Not really, no. In the case of the spider stuff, there is a good amount of progression in this one. So, she does eventually get out of Labyrinth. Well, get out, and then of course she walks, and of course she has to teleport away because she's contacted by the former brains. Though apparently she's on the shoreline going swimming. And then she comes under attack by Ariel, the Demon Lord. Making her probably, I could think of probably her first appearance in the spider stuff. Because mostly she just appears in the human stuff. She takes on the spider and destroys her body, though she's able to grow back no problem. And get away from her, does briefly teleport back to the labyrinth to basically take out the mother, but she's trapped thanks to, of course, the web. But thanks to the other two brains coming back, the third brain, the body brain, actually ends up in the mind of Ariel. And apparently, despite the fact she knows before, apparently the mother is weakened. And eventually, after a very brief battle she has with her own mother, she kills her. And also takes all of her skills. Yep, and then after that, she's done with the labyrinth. Yeah, no more labyrinth for her. She basically teleports back to where she was and ends up in this near city. Yep, and she just happened to be at the very city where Sophia is when she was a baby. And then we see the chief in the flashback. Not surprising, he looks exactly the same as he does in the human stuff because elves age very slowly. So no surprise there. Not really, no. He does know about the reincarnations. Apparently, he's one of like 3 or 4 people who does know about outside of the main people who know the reincarnated, like people who are not reincarnated. He's actually, like I said, one of 3. Yeah. So he briefly talked to Sophia, which apparently he does know she's a reincarnation, but doesn't tell her parents about it. And of course, also the reason why he's there is because of the spider. Despite being a monster, it's a very friendly spider. Heals up people. And also when the spider does appraisal on one of the people, apparently this kid who's got a liver cancer, which that's kind of weird. Yes, why would a kid have liver cancer for? And apparently the mother's have an organ failure. Heal up, no problem. Oh, one thing I've got to mention though about this, Brain Knickerbocker, the voice of the spider, apparently Magic Brain 1, apparently she gave that one the Philo voice. Yes, seriously, she gave her the Philo voice. I'm not sure why. You might be thinking, okay, if she gave her that one the Philo voice, did she give everyone the Rem voice? It's not the Body Brain. No, I think the Body Brain, I think that one she gave the Whis voice. Magic Brain 2, I think that one she gave the Rem voice. Yes. As I can tell, it's the Philo voice because of the higher pitch. That's all I can tell. She does an absolute great job. At least she's actually in a scene where there's more than just her talking. Because that's generally how it's been. Because up until the last few episodes, she's basically just talking to herself the whole period of time. Here, she's actually interacting with people, which is interesting. So apparently, they don't see her cutesy face. They see the monster face for some reason. She's referred to as Nightmare in a Labyrinth. And apparently, in our country, wants their hands on her to be punished for destroying a fortress of theirs. Yeah, and the chief is like, and the guy in charge is like, no, I'm not doing that. The creatures had no problem. Of course, that's when she teleports to kill the mother, and then eventually Arrow finds out about it. She teleports back, but she has to basically leave, and then of course she comes out like right after she just kills her mother. Teleports away. Arrow is very unhappy. There's another guy she formed a pact with, well, basically his master, and she kills him for annoying her, and that's it. That's all that really happens over the course of these 4 episodes. You're probably thinking, that's a good amount of story, basically 4 episodes. We get a little progression. We get a lot of progression for the spider stuff. Not much, I would say, like the equivalent of the human stuff. You can say they could easily take up a good 2 episodes. Instead of being basically like portion of the episode. That's what it's generally been a lot of the time. Yep. But yeah, not much these episodes are good, and if you're curious though, how many episodes left to talk about for this series? 5 left. Those will come after I read book 5 for the series. And here's a little fun fact for you about basically when the adaptation for these books started. Now, book 3 actually started with episode 9, which is the same episode book 2 wrapped up in, which, okay, that kind of makes sense. But in the case of book 4, this is interesting. They actually started adapting this one with episode 13, the third to last episode. At that point, we have to take a brief break to come back to episodes 18 and 19. So with 19, book 3 and 4 are done. And simply put at that point, all book 5 rest of the series. And of course, also, like, book 5, they technically started adapting that book with episode number 14. So, yeah. But not much to say about these episodes. They're good. So, yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for this particular review. Stay tuned later on for a little bit later for my review for my Comic Corner. And then I'm going to do Attack on Titan. That'll be pretty much it for today. Okay? Next video.